Beloved, see before you the unending storehouses of blessings reserved for those who walk with God, the chosen ones. These blessings are not mere droplets from heaven, but a downpour that fills the heart with joy and the soul with strength. Look not to the world's definitions of riches, for they fade, but to the eternal blessings prepared by the Father's hand. God has seen you, known you, and called you forth not to live in scarcity of spirit, but in the abundance He alone can give. An unwavering faith amid trials is a fortress, a constant strength that does not falter when life brings storms. It is not merely a belief held during calm days, but a deep-rooted trust that stands unshaken even as winds howl and waves crash. This faith is a decision, one made again and again to believe in God's goodness and power, regardless of present circumstances. It is a faith that acknowledges the reality of suffering but holds fast to a greater reality, the sovereignty of a faithful God who sees and cares. This faith is tested by fire, refined in the crucible of life's hardest challenges. Trials reveal the depth of our faith, not to break us but to purify and strengthen what lies within. In these moments we discover the steadfastness of God's promises and His constant presence. When all else is stripped away, faith becomes the anchor that grounds us, keeping us from being tossed by doubt or despair. With each trial we are invited to dig deeper into God's Word, to search out His promises, and to stand upon His truth. Faith amid trials sees beyond the immediate pain and discomfort. It perceives that God is working in ways unseen, weaving His purpose into every moment of difficulty. When we lean into this understanding, our hearts find peace, even in the unknown. Trials may confuse and burden us, but unwavering faith remembers that God's thoughts are higher than ours and that His plan is perfect, even when it feels far from clear. In times of darkness, unwavering faith holds on to the light of hope. It trusts that every trial is temporary, and that God's deliverance is sure, though it may tarry. This hope becomes a balm for the soul, soothing anxiety and fear. Instead of fearing the outcome, faith trusts that the Lord has already charted the course and will provide a way through. It turns from worrying over the why and instead focuses on the who that holds all things together. This steadfast faith seeks strength not from within but from God alone. In trials we quickly see the limits of our own strength, our inability to control life's outcomes. It is here that faith teaches us the beauty of dependence, finding rest and resilience in God's strength. When we are weak, He is strong, and when we are empty, He is full. Faith opens our hands to receive His power, for it is in our neediness that His sufficiency shines most brightly. Through trials, unwavering faith deepens our relationship with God. It draws us nearer to Him, pressing us to pray fervently, to listen closely, and to rest in His presence. Trials are often a call to intimacy, an invitation to draw close and to seek Him as our comforter and sustainer. In our vulnerability we experience His love more personally, understanding that He is not distant but profoundly near in our suffering. This faith does not seek to escape trials prematurely, but rather to learn and grow through them. With a heart open to God's lessons, we find that trials become teachers, shaping us more into His likeness. We begin to see suffering as a place of transformation, where God molds our character, teaching us patience, humility, and grace. We emerge refined, not by avoiding pain, but by enduring it with a surrendered heart. Unwavering faith also encourages others. Our steadfastness amid trials becomes a testimony to God's sustaining power and encouragement to those watching. When others see that our peace and joy are not dependent on circumstances, they are drawn to the source of our hope. Our endurance becomes a light, guiding others to trust in God's unchanging nature. Faith, then, not only strengthens us but also edifies the community around us. Finally, unwavering faith is a foundation for future challenges. Each trial endured with faith adds a stone to the foundation of our trust in God. We learn, through experience, that He is indeed faithful and able. So, when new trials arise, we stand stronger, recalling His past faithfulness and trusting Him for what lies ahead. This cycle of faith and endurance creates a resilience that is unshakable, built on the history of God's work in our lives. A heart that seeks God above all worldly desires is a heart that treasures the eternal over the fleeting. It understands that the pleasures and accolades of this world are temporary, while the joy found in God is everlasting. Such a heart finds its deepest satisfaction not in wealth, success, or recognition, but in the presence and promises of its Creator. It is a heart that yearns for intimacy with God, knowing that the true riches of life are found in relationship with Him, rather than in the material gains that can so easily fade away. In a world where desires constantly compete for our attention, a heart that seeks God is uncommonly content. It has learned the secret of finding satisfaction not in possessions or achievements, but in the sufficiency of God's love and provision. Even when lacking in worldly comforts, this heart knows that it has everything it truly needs in God. This contentment enables it to live freely, unburdened by the relentless pursuit of more, trusting in God's goodness and provision for each day. Such a heart is also willing to sacrifice. It understands that to seek God wholeheartedly often means to surrender personal ambitions and desires that do not align with His purpose. This heart places God's will above its own, relinquishing the pursuit of personal glory for the sake of honoring Him. It is willing to lay down comforts, plans, and even relationships that hinder a closer walk with God, trusting that whatever it loses for His sake will be abundantly restored. A heart that seeks God above all worldly desires values eternal treasures over temporal gains. It recognizes that earthly rewards are limited, and that true worth is found in treasures that cannot be destroyed or stolen. This heart invests in things that have lasting significance: love, faith, kindness, and service to others, knowing that these are the riches that endure. It does not hoard possessions, but gives generously, understanding that everything it has is a gift from God to be used for His glory. In seeking God first, this heart develops a deep sense of peace and purpose that cannot be shaken by life's trials. It does not live in fear of losing worldly security or status, because its foundation is built on the solid rock of God's promises. This heart knows that no matter what storms may come, God remains faithful, and His love endures. This unwavering confidence frees it from anxiety and allows it to rest in the assurance that God is both its provider and protector. A heart that prioritizes God above worldly desires is also a light to others. Its devotion to God shines as a beacon, showing others the beauty and fulfillment that come from a life centered on Him. People are drawn to the peace, joy, and resilience that flow from such a heart, seeing in it a reflection of God's love and grace. By choosing to seek God above all else, this heart inspires others to question their own pursuits and to consider the lasting joy found in a relationship with God. In seeking God above all else, this heart becomes sensitive to His voice and leading. With fewer distractions, it can hear His whispers more clearly, discerning His guidance in daily decisions and life's larger choices. This sensitivity enables it to walk closely with God, responding in obedience to His promptings and aligning its actions with His will. Such a heart does not follow the crowd, but seeks to walk the path God has prepared, trusting that He knows the way far better than it does. A heart that seeks God over worldly desires also experiences a profound transformation in values and desires. Over time, it finds that the things it once craved no longer hold the same appeal. As it draws closer to God, its desires are refined and purified, aligning more with what is holy and good. This heart begins to desire what God desires, to love what He loves, and to be grieved by what grieves Him. In this process, it becomes more like Him, reflecting His character in greater measure. Finally, a heart that seeks God above all is filled with joy, a joy that transcends circumstances and is rooted in His unchanging love. It does not rely on external achievements or possessions for happiness, but finds delight in the simple, profound reality of being loved by God. This joy is resilient, enduring through trials and challenges, as it is anchored in the truth of who God is. With a heart so captivated by God, the pursuit of worldly desires fades in the light of the greater joy of knowing and being known by Him. The quiet strength to endure, grounded in the assurance of God's promises, is a strength that does not boast or clamor but remains resilient through all trials. It knows that while circumstances may rage like a storm, there is a rock-solid foundation beneath, an unbreakable promise of God's presence and faithfulness. This strength is not loud or forceful, rather. It is a calm and steady resolve rooted deeply in the knowledge of who God is. It draws from a wellspring of faith that does not depend on outward circumstances, but rests in the certainty of God's unwavering love and purpose. Such quiet strength is often tested, for endurance in faith means standing firm through the unexpected trials that come our way. When difficulties arise, the world may look on in bewilderment, wondering how a heart can remain steady amidst such hardship. But a heart rooted in God's promises knows that trials are not without purpose. Each moment of struggle becomes an opportunity to trust more deeply, to remember that God has promised to be with His people, to uphold them, and to work all things together for their good. This quiet strength is a testimony to a faith that trusts God's wisdom above all. In the face of adversity, this strength allows a person to rest, knowing that they do not face life's battles alone. God's promises to never leave or forsake His children serve as a constant reassurance, a gentle reminder that even in the darkest valley they are not abandoned. This quiet endurance does not deny the pain or difficulty of trials, but acknowledges that God's presence is a greater reality. It is a strength born of reliance on God, where peace settles into the soul despite the storm, because there is confidence in His promises. Quiet strength sees each difficulty as a refining fire, a process through which God shapes the soul to reflect His character more fully. It does not resent trials, but embraces them as a means of spiritual growth and transformation. God's promises assure that He is molding His people, refining their faith as gold is refined through fire. This quiet strength clings to the promise that God is not only present in the trial, but actively using it to shape them into who He has called them to be. Endurance, then, becomes a pathway to holiness, drawing them closer to the likeness of Christ. This enduring strength is marked by patience, a fruit of the Spirit that allows believers to wait on God's timing with hope. In a world that seeks instant solutions and immediate relief, quiet strength knows that God's timing is perfect. His promises are sure, but His ways and timing often differ from ours. Thus this quiet strength waits without rushing, trusting that the one who holds tomorrow is faithful to fulfill every promise. It rests in the knowledge that God is working even when there seems to be no visible change, holding on to the assurance that His plans are for good. In the silence of waiting, quiet strength finds peace in prayer, seeking God's presence and comfort. Prayer becomes a lifeline, a way to pour out fears, doubts, and hopes to the one who listens and cares. In this communion with God, quiet strength is renewed, for God's promises are often recalled and affirmed through prayer. The heart draws close to Him, remembering that His peace transcends understanding and that His promises are firm. This reliance on God in prayer strengthens the soul, deepening trust in His provision and guidance. Quiet strength is unwavering because it trusts in the unchanging character of God. Where human strength falters, quiet strength knows that God's promises are backed by His faithfulness, which has proven true through generations. This assurance is not based on wishful thinking, but on the evidence of God's unbroken faithfulness throughout Scripture and history. Knowing that God is the same yesterday, today, and forever fills the heart with courage, allowing it to stand firm even when the path is unclear. It rests in the confidence that God, who has been faithful in the past, will continue to be faithful in the future. A soul with quiet strength also becomes a beacon of hope for others. Those around it may witness a peace that does not falter and a trust that does not waver, even in the midst of difficulty. This quiet endurance becomes a powerful testimony, drawing others to wonder about the source of such steadfastness. It reflects God's sustaining power and serves as a reminder that His promises are available to all who believe. Quiet strength becomes a silent sermon, proclaiming God's faithfulness and encouraging others to seek Him in their own struggles. Quiet strength is also humble. acknowledging that true endurance is not of one's own making, but a gift from God. It does not boast in its own resilience, but gives glory to God, recognizing that His promises and presence are the foundation of its steadfastness. It knows that self-reliance would be insufficient, and that only God's grace empowers it to stand firm. This humility allows it to lean on God all the more, to rely less on personal strength and more on the power of His Spirit. In this humility, quiet strength finds greater dependence on God, a place where His power is made perfect in weakness. Lastly, quiet strength lives with an eternal perspective, knowing that God's promises are not only for this life but extend into eternity. It recognizes that every trial endured with faith is a step closer to the ultimate fulfillment of God's promises in the life to come. This assurance fuels hope and joy, reminding the heart that the struggles of today are temporary, while God's promises are eternal. Quiet strength, then, looks forward, pressing on with unwavering faith, confident that one day every promise will be fulfilled in glory. An overflow of joy, even in life's valleys, is a mark of profound faith and trust in God. This joy is not born of circumstance, but springs from a deeper well, one that recognizes God's goodness even when life is hard. It is a joy that doesn't depend on an absence of trouble, but instead rises in the midst of difficulty. This joy is rooted in a relationship with God, one that sees beyond the immediate trial to His eternal promises. In this way, the valleys of life, dark and uncertain as they may be, become the very places where God's light shines most brightly. Such joy doesn't deny the pain or reality of life's hardships, but acknowledges God's comforting presence within them. It understands that God walks beside His children through every valley, providing strength when human endurance falls short. This joy comes from knowing that we are never truly alone. We have a shepherd who guides, protects, and sustains us even in the shadowed places. Because of this assurance, there is a joy that rises, not from the removal of the trial, but from the closeness of God within it. In life's valleys, joy becomes a declaration of faith. To choose joy amid suffering is to declare, I trust that God is good. Even here, this joy is a testament to the heart's conviction that God's plans are wise and that He wastes no sorrow. When we experience an overflow of joy in the valley, we are demonstrating a hope that defies what the world might expect, a peace that surpasses human understanding. This quiet joy, rooted in God's promises, becomes a powerful witness to the world, showing that our faith is genuine and unshaken by temporary trials. An overflow of joy in the valley is strengthened by gratitude. When we choose to see God's hand at work, even in the midst of difficulty, our hearts are softened to His goodness. Gratitude shifts our focus from what is lacking to what God has provided, and in doing so it invites joy into our hearts. Even in the valley, there is always something to be thankful for: a lesson learned, a comfort given, a promise fulfilled. As we practice gratitude, joy grows, and we find ourselves strengthened to endure whatever comes. This joy is not silent, it becomes a source of encouragement for others. When people see someone walking through trials with an unshaken joy, they are drawn to the source of that strength. Our joy in the valley becomes a light for others, inspiring them to seek the same hope and comfort in God. It shows the watching world that our faith is not dependent on good times, but is steadfast even in the darkest hours. In this way, our joy in suffering glorifies God and extends His love to others. In the valley, joy is sustained by prayer. Prayer connects us to the heart of God, allowing us to pour out our burdens and receive His peace in return. When we bring our worries, fears, and sorrows to God, we open ourselves to His joy, which lifts us above our circumstances. Prayer transforms our outlook, reminding us that we are heard, loved, and held by a Father who cares deeply for us. This divine connection through prayer sustains joy, for we are reminded that our struggles are held in God's capable hands. Another aspect of joy in the valley is the strength it gives to persevere. Joy provides the inner resilience needed to keep going when we feel weary and discouraged. This joy is not just a fleeting emotion, but a steady force that anchors us. Because our joy is rooted in God's promises, it carries us through each step, reminding us that there is purpose in our pain and hope at the end of our journey. This joy becomes a source of strength, fueling our resolve to walk forward, knowing that God's plans are good. In the valley, joy also teaches us humility. When we find joy in our struggles, we recognize our dependence on God for everything. We see that our strength, hope, and joy are gifts from Him, not products of our own doing. This humility fosters a deeper reliance on God, drawing us closer to Him and helping us to see His hand at work in our lives. As we humble ourselves, joy grows, for we are reminded of God's infinite love and grace, which are freely given to us despite our weaknesses. Finally, an overflow of joy in the valley is a foretaste of victory. This joy is a reminder that we are more than conquerors through Christ, that the hardships of this world cannot overcome the joy set before us. The valleys may be deep, but they are not endless, and we are promised that one day every tear will be wiped away. As we experience this joy, we hold on to the assurance that victory is already ours in Christ. Joy in the valley is both a comfort and a promise, pointing us toward the day when we will stand on the mountaintop, fully restored and forever in God's presence. A constant trust in God's timing and provision is one of the deepest acts of faith we can practice. Trusting in His timing means believing that, regardless of our plans or desires, God knows what is best and when it is best. Often this kind of trust grows over time and through experience as we see God's wisdom reveal itself in ways we may not have initially understood. When we trust in God's timing, we let go of our need to control the future and instead surrender to His perfect orchestration. This surrender brings peace, knowing that our lives are in His capable hands. Trusting in God's provision also means we believe that He will supply all our needs according to His riches and glory. It's a promise that reaches beyond physical needs to include spiritual, emotional, and relational sustenance as well. This trust reminds us that God sees every detail of our lives, every need, and every longing. It encourages us to turn to Him first, rather than to our own resources, knowing that He is our ultimate provider. His provision is timely and wise, tailored to our specific needs, even when we may not understand it fully. This trust also calls us to resist anxiety about the future. When we trust that God is both the author and sustainer of our lives, we find freedom from the constant worry that can plague us. Jesus teaches us to not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow has enough trouble of its own. This teaching encourages us to focus on the present, trusting that God is already in our future, preparing the way. Such trust liberates us from the chains of fear, allowing us to live more fully in the here and now, confident in His faithful provision. Trusting in God's timing and provision often involves letting go of our own plans. This is not easy, especially when we feel certain about what we want. But faith requires surrender, a release of our expectations to embrace God's greater purpose. When we submit to His will, we acknowledge that His plans are better than ours. Even when things don't go according to our desires, we can rest assured that God's design for our lives is perfect. This trust requires humility, recognizing that His wisdom is infinitely greater than our own. In times of uncertainty, trusting in God's timing provides an anchor for our souls. When the future is unclear, we may be tempted to take control or rush decisions. But true faith rests in the knowledge that God is already at work, even when we don't see immediate results. This trust reminds us that God is faithful to His promises, and that His timing is always aligned with His purpose for our lives. Even when we face delays or disappointments, we know that God's timing is not a denial but a preparation for something greater. Trusting in God's timing also strengthens our relationships with others. When we are secure in God's plan for our lives, we are less likely to compete or compare ourselves with others. Instead, we celebrate the unique journey God has for each person. This kind of trust fosters contentment, allowing us to rejoice in the blessings of others without feeling diminished. We can encourage and support one another, knowing that God's timing is perfect for each of us. This unity and peace come from a deep confidence that God is in control, both of our lives and the lives of those around us. When we place our trust in God's provision, we find that He provides not only for our needs, but also for our dreams and desires in ways we may not expect. Sometimes His provision comes in ways that surprise us, opening doors we had never considered. Trusting in His provision allows us to dream with open hands, knowing that God's plans for us are for our good and His glory. Even when we face setbacks, this trust gives us the courage to keep moving forward, confident that God is working all things for our benefit. Finally, trusting in God's timing and provision builds a lasting foundation for our faith. As we experience His faithfulness time and time again, our trust deepens. We learn to lean on Him more fully, realizing that He is the source of every good thing in our lives. This foundation strengthens us for the future, equipping us to face challenges with confidence and peace. Trusting in God's timing and provision transforms our perspective, reminding us that our lives are held in His loving hands. This trust allows us to walk forward with courage, knowing that He is with us every step of the way. A spirit that draws others to God's love is a life that reflects His compassion, kindness, and grace in every interaction. This spirit shines through in a world that often feels dark, offering hope and showing that there is a love greater than anything we can find on our own. When we live in a way that embodies God's love, people are naturally drawn to the light within us, even if they cannot name it. They see something different, something sincere, and it plants a seed of curiosity in their hearts about the source of this light. Such a spirit is gentle, not pushy or overbearing, understanding that love is best expressed through patience and genuine care. A person who draws others to God does not force their beliefs, but listens, respects, and connects on a personal level. This spirit doesn't judge or criticize, but instead opens its arms to everyone, knowing that each soul is precious to God. In doing so, they create a safe space where others can explore their faith without fear of rejection or ridicule. Compassion lies at the heart of this spirit, as it is a reflection of God's own heart. A compassionate person who is deeply rooted in God's love sees beyond the flaws or mistakes of others, and instead sees the value and potential within each person. They understand that God's love is freely given and strive to offer that same love to others without condition or expectation. This kindness becomes a balm to wounded hearts, guiding them toward the one who heals all pain. This spirit draws others to God's love by offering encouragement and hope. In a world filled with discouragement and despair, a loving spirit offers a gentle reminder that there is always hope. When others are burdened or broken, this spirit lifts them up, encouraging them to trust in a God who never leaves nor forsakes His children. Through encouragement, people are reminded of their worth, their purpose, and the love of a God who walks beside them every step of the way. A spirit that draws others to God values humility. Such a person knows that it is not by their strength or goodness that they live this way, but by God's grace alone. They are not seeking personal glory or recognition, but desire only to point others to God. This humility speaks volumes, as it reveals a heart that is genuinely concerned for the well-being and salvation of others, free from ego or self-interest. Their focus remains on God, allowing His love to shine more brightly through their lives. Forgiveness is another powerful attribute of a spirit that attracts others to God's love. When others see someone who forgives freely, even in difficult circumstances, they witness a love that transcends human understanding. Forgiveness is one of the most challenging aspects of love, yet it is central to the Christian life. By offering forgiveness, this spirit demonstrates God's mercy, showing that love is stronger than bitterness or anger. This kind of love can break down barriers and inspire even the hardest of hearts. Joy also plays a vital role in this spirit, as joy is one of the most infectious attributes. A joyful heart is a testament to the goodness of God, even in the face of trials. Joy does not mean a life without hardship, but rather a deep-seated peace and happiness that comes from knowing God. When others see this joy, it creates a yearning in them for something that transcends life's troubles. They begin to wonder how they, too, might find this joy, leading them closer to the source. Generosity is another hallmark of a spirit that reflects God's love. This is a generosity that extends beyond material giving to include time, attention, and compassion. A generous spirit is willing to help those in need, to share with those who have less, and to give without expecting anything in return. This selflessness shows that the person's heart is aligned with God's, who loves without measure. Others are drawn to this generosity, as it reveals a glimpse of God's boundless love for humanity. Finally, a spirit that draws others to God's love is marked by a desire to serve. This person does not seek to be served, but seeks ways to serve others, reflecting Jesus' own servant heart. Whether through small acts of kindness or larger acts of sacrifice, they are always looking for opportunities to bless others. This spirit of service speaks loudly to a world often focused on self-fulfillment, revealing that true joy and purpose are found in loving and serving others. Through this service, they lead people toward the one who served humanity to the point of giving his life.
I know you think you're the man of the hour. I know you think I'm a delicate flower, but I'm here to tell you I'ma take back the power. I like to dip my fries in sweet and sour. Bring around the rosy, a pocket full of posies. Doctor gave you a diagnosis, turns out you're just hella nosy. You're always in my business, but this ain't a floral shop. I wish you would begonia, but you never seem to stop. So why don't you mind your own? You've been in the class too long. You singing the same damn song, time for you to move along. I like to dip my fries in sweet and sour. I know you think you're the man of the hour. I'm a delicate flower, but I'm here to tell you I'ma take back the power. I like to dip my fries in sweet and sour. Why you stressing all the time? Stop and give the roses a smell. There's so much more to life than trying to give everybody hell. You used to make me laugh a little, you used to be so silly. Now one day you're a daffodil, the next day you're a lily. Your tulip sure do a lot of flap. You should close them like a Venus flytrap. I don't wanna hear what you said. I don't want your weeds in my bed. I like to dip my fries in sweet and sour. I know you think you're the man of the hour. I know you think I'm a delicate flower, but I'm here to tell you I'ma take back the power. I like to dip my fries in sweet and sour. Why you stressing all the time? Stop and give the roses a smell. There's so much more to life than trying to give everybody hell. You used to make me laugh a little, you used to be so silly. Now one day you're a daffodil, the next day you're a lily. Your tulips sure do a lot of flap. You should close them like a Venus flytrap. I don't wanna hear what you said. I don't want your weeds in my bed. I like to dip my fries in sweet and sour. I know you think you're the man of the hour. I know you think I'm a delicate flower, but I'm here to tell you I'ma take back the power.